You're a mum, you're a busy mum. Come listen to the Busy Mum podcast. Life hacks and inspiration for the busy modern mum.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Busy Mum podcast. Just before we get into this interview, I will be releasing new episodes each Monday morning, just like clockwork. Also, if you don't want to miss an episode, subscribe to my iTunes channel, The Busy Mum Podcast. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. Just search The Busy Mum and you should find me there. Now, a word from our sponsor. Do you find that you hop in the shower, you're enjoying the lovely hot water dripping down all over your body, relaxation, no interruptions from the kids, and you think, yeah, I'm going to shave my legs now. You just pick up your razor and it's in just the most rubbish condition. It's rusted, it's full of soap scum or shaving cream, or even your husband has grabbed it and shaved his face and not cleaned it out. Gross. But you clean it out a little bit, you give it a go, and you end up cutting your legs, and now they look worse than when they were just a little bit hairy. Well, now thanks to Pins, the latest and greatest women's leg shaving company, you can have them delivered straight to your door. New razors all the time. But not only do they have razors with 6 blades plus 4 extra cartridges in the pack, but they also have a clear shave gel, which is slippery as hell and moisturizes to boot. The gel also allows you to see exactly what you are shaving, which is great for those pits and private bits. I've been using them now for at least 6 months and am loving it. Check them out at www.pins.com.au. And don't forget to use the Busy Mum podcast code, BusyMum, to get 15% off your first purchase. Well, Natalie, welcome to the Busy Mum podcast. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
No worries. And I understand you're working from a co-working space. Can you just talk to me a little bit about that? Because I thought it was quite interesting what you said offline before. So
Yeah, of course. So my partner is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Two Space, and they turn restaurants closed during the day and hotel lobbies and, really sort of underutilized spaces into places where you can go and work and collaborate. And get creative instead of working from home. And if you sign up for a membership with those guys, you can effectively work from any of their spaces. So you're not limited to where you can go or what you can do. And they're sort of peppered all through Australia at the moment, and looking at some spaces in Hong Kong and Singapore and stuff as well. So they're doing some cool things. Yeah.
That's very cool. So just tell me a little bit about yourself and your business and your family life, if you have one.
Yeah, I do.
We all have a family life.
Where do I start? So professionally, I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called UFOODI. We consider ourselves to be a food tech company, and essentially what we're doing is connecting restaurants and consumers through an app where our main mission is actually to reduce food waste. And we've had to spend a fair bit of time on sort of developing this concept and the tech behind it, because as important as food waste is to address, it's a very overwhelming, big issue. And so a lot of people sort of look at it and, assume that the problem's too big and how can I possibly affect it? So we tend to just not do anything about it.
Yeah.
So we had to find a way to get everybody involved and get everyone interested in being able to have an impact. So effectively, we connect these restaurants and consumers through the app, where consumers get choice, more choice and more control over what they eat. It's all done in advance. So customers tell restaurants what they want to eat, how they want to eat it, where they want to eat it, when they want to eat it. And then the restaurants are able to manage those requests and customize food right down to the ingredient and portion size for consumers before they even arrive at a restaurant. So we're taking, I suppose, an approach where we're solving some pain points for everybody in the equation. Mm-hmm. Restaurants not having to deal with a bunch of dietary requests, in the middle of an 8 o'clock Saturday night dinner service where it just might not be an achievable request. But then also giving people who do need to, have some concessions with their food, particularly if it's a medical condition, where they can eat out and enjoy food like everybody else. To be fair, I'm a little bit selfish in the respect that I do have an autoimmune condition, so this is great for me.
Business always comes from a passion from somewhere, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. I mean, I've been in the food industry for a really long time, so I've seen a lot of these things happen, and the wastage on a scale that, you know, is really quite substantial and never really addressed. So there was a few drivers for me, but this was certainly a personal one that, you know, instead of having to eat before I went out for dinner or eat at home once I'd been out for dinner, I can actually do it at the restaurant with my friends and family.
Yeah.
And then, because we solve those pain points for restaurants and for consumers, the consequence of that transaction and that interaction is reducing food waste. So we're just about to launch a bunch of exclusive dining events across some different venues in Sydney, and that's going to give people the opportunity to really sort of test and taste what we're talking about, because we've been working on the tech for about 2 years now, so this is
that's
a big moment.
Big commitment in time. Yeah. Are you a little bit nervous? I'd be like,
do you know what, it's actually, this bit is the easy bit for me. So you know, running restaurants and, you know, events and getting all the food and stuff together, that's the easy bit. I've been doing that for a really long time. I guess it's been everything else leading up to this point, building a brand and educating people and, you know, creating some tech that technically doesn't exist yet, and being a non-technical founder. That's
well, I did read in your answers somewhere that you were writing code for an app, and that's more than what I do. I mean, I've built my website on Squarespace, which is a complete drop and drag platform, which I love.
We do use Squarespace, I'm not going to lie.
Yay.
So that's my way out of not having to code something else. But that's purely come out of necessity, I guess. Like when you start a company, you just have to be resourceful, and so
and know your limitations as well, because you can't do everything.
That's right. But I'm also one of those people that likes to understand how things work. So even, you know, if I find, you know, you get a new gadget at home, whatever it is, or, you know, a computer or something, I kind of like spend hours just figuring out how things work and why they work that way. So
can you figure out how to work my watch? Because this G-Shock, I love it, but to try and change the time on this thing is a bloody nightmare.
Do you know what? That is so funny that you say that, because when I was in high school, this is how far back my entrepreneurial journey goes, I used to sell those watches to people in high school to make money. And I used to have to set the time on them all the time.
Oh, God. The manual that it came with is like this thick, and I did manage, after pressing a lot of the random buttons, to set it for the daylight savings time. Mm-hmm. So I thought, it's going to take me 6 months to just reset it. So then by the time I've set it, I have to set it back to where it was. But that's the only functionality that I use, is the time and the steppers. So
we'll have to get together and I'll be able to set the time for you, most definitely.
So bad.
It's a skill I never thought would come in handy again, but here we are.
Well, I only just found out that these watches have been around for that long as well.
They have, yeah.
I was like, what? I thought this was a new thing. And my husband's like, the tech in it is new, but the actual watch design is old. I went, yeah, thank you. It's all right. So just describe for us a day in the life of you.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, it depends on the day. Every day is different, but I like to keep it as routine as possible. And that makes things a little bit easy. So I like to get up early to work out, to train. It's really important for me, and not just for physical health, but for mental health as well. I really find that it just puts me in a good mood. My partner will tell you if I don't train in the morning, I'm pretty cranky for the rest of the day. So he knows what to expect. It's something for me on a personal level. I got quite sick a few years ago, and being able to like lift heavy things and push heavy things and do all that kind of stuff just sort of it reminds me that I'm strong and I'm healthy and I'm fit and I'm all those types of things. And so if I can, you know, deadlift 120 kilos, then I can do anything that day. So it's a bit more of a mindset thing for me, maybe more than just the physical, wins from it. So I do that Coffee is next on the list. That's essential. I can't survive without coffee, unfortunately. But maybe like 5 years ago, I'd never had coffee in my life. So going from not ever drinking coffee ever to needing it on a consistent basis all day, every day is probably something I should be concerned about. But
you can always work
it
out later. You can work it out later.
I let it go. It's the only vice, so I let it go. Then we have, morning school routine, getting up, dragging up out of bed, physically removing pajamas and socks and things and putting everything else back on, because that's always a handful. And then if I pick up or drop off my son at school, on the days that I do, I really have to be sort of hammer and tongs with everything else that I'm doing when we're working on the company, because I have a very short window of time to get stuff done. So whether that's my co-founder, for example, he knows Monday, Tuesdays especially, I'm there for 3 hours and then I'm out. And that's it. That's all I get. So more often than not, those days are probably more productive than the days that I don't have to do drop off and pick up, because I can be a bit more liberal with my time. But so drop off at school, work, pick up from school, and then we have my son's, social calendar, and all his extracurricular activities like swimming and soccer and play dates and all those things. He has a better social life than I do, I think.
My kids do as well, don't worry. It's just the time of life we're in right now. It will pass.
It's crazy, isn't it? I'm sure in maybe 5 years' time he won't want to know who I am.
And he'll be able to take himself on the bus somewhere,
Yeah, exactly. We'll be passing ships in the night probably, so I should be grateful for it now. So we do all that stuff. Dinner and family time is really important because it is sort of go all the time. So we try to make cooking dinner a bit of a family activity. Someone picks what we have for dinner every other night. So we all kind of take turns, and then we, sous chef whoever's decided what's for dinner. So someone just kind of takes charge of that, and then we all contribute.
What's your go-to dinner?
My partner and my son love Mexican food. So if it's not been decided or we've got 20 minutes to make something, it's usually, nachos or quesadillas or something to that effect. And it's great for me because I do have some nutritional requirements. So Mexican's a really easy one to work around. So that's usually a quick go-to for us.
Yeah, I love tacos. Love them. They make a mess though, don't they? It's like food everywhere.
Do. But that's how you know you enjoyed it too. Like if you don't, have some on your shirt or
all over the
floor. That's right. Then you didn't, maybe you didn't enjoy it as much as you should have.
Awesome. So, what is the best advice you've received?
My grandmother. I lived with my grandmother for a fair bit of my childhood. Kind of growing up, and she always had lots of little tidbits of advice, usually etiquette things like, certain colours I couldn't wear together. Yeah, exactly. How I should introduce myself and how I should talk to a woman and a man and all that kind of stuff. She's very old school. I'd place her in 1930s Hollywood glamour kind of lady, even into her 80s now. She can't leave the house without
makeup,
3 hours of preparation to leave the house. So so she taught me lots of things, but one thing she said to me was that I should never half-ass anything and I should always use my full ass. And I didn't quite know what that meant when I was 11. But
thanks,
I was kind of okay, Nan, you're losing the plot. Great, that's good. But I understand it more than I ever have now, and I think I've kind of inadvertently, almost subconsciously incorporated that into everything I do. And a lot of my close friends and family will say that if I go and do something, I'm all in. It's kind of all or nothing, those types of things. And I only do things if I think I can give it all my attention and all my focus and all my energy. And I think I kind of live by that. It's a bit of a creed almost that I don't mean to, but I certainly do apply it in a lot of areas.
It sounds like you are giving it your all in a lot of areas, but is there one area that you would like to improve?
I think it would be great if we had a bit more stability in our lives.
Financial or emotional? Because
all of it. So, you know, being in a lifelong partnership with someone who's also decided to be a CEO and a founder and start their own company, just like I have, is probably the definition of insanity.
It's the definition of you don't want to be Joe Average. That's what it is.
Yeah, potentially. I think, you know, it works because we understand what it's like to live in the life of each other every single day. So we come up against the same issues and the same problems and the same stresses, and we can kind of bounce off each other when those things happen. Because typically when it's not your problem, it's much easier to be objective and solve it than when you're in the thick of it. So that's great.
I'm a little bit envious of that, actually, because I work with my husband. Like, we run a business together, so the problems are we're both in the same bubble, trying to get the answers to grow bigger.
I will take that as a warning, because we often talk about how if we work together, the things we could do in the world would be incredible. But maybe
no, it's not. Definitely not a warning. It's just it's just something to be aware of. Like, because when you are in that fishbowl, like, it's hard to see out or see from the outside in.
Absolutely.
You know, and like usually the answer is staring us so blindly in the face that we're like, oh, why? And it's, because you're tired. You've got two kids to raise. You've got employees. You've got cash flow. You've got blah, 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 like everything else going on. So,
yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's totally, yeah. And that's, you know, it's great, but at the same time, because we're always sort of flying by the seat of our pants and problem solving and just kind of running around all the time, it does get a bit tiring and a bit overwhelming, and you kind of crave those really boring normal things.
We do have part boring stuff here, so like when we're manufacturing and that, you can label lids for a while if you want. You know,
that's great. Mindless stuff.
Yeah, mindless stuff.
That sounds great.
But then on the other side of it is like, we've got this really strategic thing that you have to work on. So like, I feel in this business it's a very good thing. But running a tech business like yourself, like, that just all sounds really hard to me. You know, like.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, it's incredibly rewarding because we're at the point where, you know, we can share it with a lot of people now. But everyone's talking in acronyms at you all the time, and you're like, what does that mean? How am I supposed to understand what that means?
Well, I've gotten better at actually saying, I don't understand that word. And rather than going, yeah, and going, what did they say? What does it mean? I call them out, and, well, not call them out. I say, can you explain that further? Because I don't understand what you just said. Like, just bring it down a little bit.
I had a meeting with our dev team yesterday, and they explained something to me, and I was like, okay, hang on, back up like 10 steps for a sec. Like, just let's pretend I've never spoken to you ever before, and you're trying to tell me what you do for a living. Like, let's talk about it that way, so I know exactly what you're trying to tell me and how long that's going to take and what that means for, you know, my marketing campaign or that promise I made to that venue or whatever. So, yeah, and it's great when you can find people that can dumb it down for you, or, you know,
it's a
respect
skill,
that.
It's a skill in itself to explain it in a way that everyone can understand.
Absolutely.
So, yes. Moving on. What books are you currently reading, or do you have like a favourite Netflix or Stan show?
Good question. I read a lot of books at once. I can't sort of just commit to one. So I've usually got 3, 4, 10 books on the go. It drives my partner insane. He's like, can you just read like one thing? Can we just talk about that for a week instead of a different book every day? But it just kind of depends what mood I'm in. So I'm reading a few that are kind of business related at the moment. There's one called Creative Confidence. There's one called Linchpin. And they've been really great from a professional business kind of point of view. I'm also reading one called Brain Food, which is super interesting to me. It talks a lot about the brain gut connection and how nutrition supports brain function and how it ages and lots of stuff, about neuroscience and dementia and all those types of things and how that's all connected. And probably a little bit interesting as well from the sense that my mum works in palliative care, so she works with a lot of people with those types of conditions in their older age, and sort of helps me understand what that's like for her as well. So
Apparently those people are really inspiring coming to the end of their life. They have so many words of wisdom that it's like profound.
Yeah, mum has some great stories actually, and some, most of the time that really inspiring sort of thought-provoking stuff that they give you are very few far fleeting moments where they're not in a kind of childlike state where they're running around and flicking fire alarms on and eating ice creams and getting it all over themselves and that kind of stuff, but they do give you those moments, and it's great when we do, have dinner and stuff with mum, that she kind of intersperses those moments with all the fun, crazy stuff that she also deals with. And I'm sure it's a very difficult but interesting place to be at that stage in your life, because some of it you can't control, and some of it, is that reflective, this is what I've learnt stuff. So, it's interesting for sure. If I had to suggest Netflix things, I do the same thing with Netflix as I do with books. I just had a moment where I realised that, where I watch like 100 things at one time. I've been watching The Haunting of Hill House. Actually, I just finished that. Purely from a curious perspective, because everyone was saying it was the scariest thing they'd ever seen. I found it hilarious, and I don't know why. I didn't find it scary at all.
That's good.
So I don't know if that makes me crazy or not. The Sinner is incredible. I couldn't take myself away from that, so I probably lost a bit of sleep watching that one. And Ozark has been really great too. I can't stand watching Jason Bateman. He's the main character in that.
Oh my God, why did you say that? I love him.
I don't know why. Maybe I had like a horrible experience as a teenager watching him in some terrible movie, and now it's just tainted my view of Jason Bateman. But I forget that it's him in that show. So it's definitely a must watch as well.
And what's your greatest fear, and how do you deal with it?
It's cliche, but failure is my greatest fear, and that's probably why I don't tend to jump into anything that I don't intend on giving 100% with. But something that I've been learning, particularly as I've been involved in startup companies for a few years now, maybe 5 or 6 years now, is that it's just kind of part of the process. And if I don't fail, that's a problem.
Like what am I doing? What am I not doing wrong?
Exactly.
Right? Oh.
Exactly. I'm not taking enough risk, or I'm not thinking about things broadly enough or big enough, or if I don't make a mistake or I don't fail, then I'm not
progressing.
I'm not doing it right.
Yeah, you're not learning.
And so there's a lot of review and briefing and debriefing on a lot of things that we do or don't do pretty consistently, so that we sort of embrace failure rather than just trying to ignore it.
Avoid. Yeah. Don't fall anywhere.
So I still don't want to do it. I still don't want to fail, but I understand that it's
no one wants to fail. It's a horrible feeling, but and I teach my kids this, and you probably teach your son this as well. It's like you have to fail so you can grow and learn.
Exactly.
That's what failure is. It's not actually failing is actually a horrible word to say.
We need a better word.
Yeah,
we do.
It's like the word commitment, right? Everyone's like, commitment.
That's
you need like a better word for those 2 words. I'll work on it. Okay. You've got a couple of minutes left, and I've got 3 quick questions, and then I can let you get on with your day. So, question number 1, what websites have you signed up to recently that you actually find value in receiving their emails?
Oh, it's so hard because I feel like I just subscribe to everything, and more often than not, it's just crap. And that's something I always have in the back of my mind when I'm sending out EDMs and newsletters on behalf of our company. It's like, am I just pushing people crap today because I don't read half the stuff that I get? But I do love. I subscribe to everything through my work email. I don't really function outside of that, even though I do have a personal email. So when I get push things from, like, you know, some sort of clothing sale or something exciting that comes in the middle of me, you know, having to deal with some fire in a day, that is so nice to just get pushed like a blazer sale from Tatuba or something, where I can just be like, yes, I need to buy myself that jacket now, and that'll make everything better. That's nice to break it up. So I think, like, if I'm getting value out of anything, it's when they push me to buy something and they're like, oh, it's almost like they know when I'm stressed.
They sense it.
They do, and then it just pops up in my inbox, and it's like, have you bought this shirt yet?
No,
it's 20% off. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I need right now. So that's where I get the most value at the moment, I think.
That's so funny. What's one piece of advice you would give your pre-baby self?
You're not supposed to know what to do. You've never done it before, so you can't possibly know what to do in any given situation. And still now, like, you know, the baby bit's crazy and hard because you can't communicate with each other, and you know, you're tired and they're tired, and you're hungry and they're hungry, and all those types of things. But, you know, even now, I've never had an 8-year-old before, and I've never had a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old so every single day I actually don't know what I'm doing, and I'm just
you go with the gut. You're like, oh, my gut says this, I should be doing this now.
Yeah,
that's how I parent.
He liked chicken last night, but today he doesn't. So how did we get here? Yeah, he only eats chicken on Tuesdays. Like,
between period of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. But if you miss that window, it's out.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing. So I guess it's just that you've never done it, and they've never done it. They've never been an 8-year-old kid before, so you know. But I have. So I guess, you know, in some sense of the word, I can try and think back to when I was 8. But then,
but you're
you know,
a female
I didn't have,
and he's a male. Totally
exactly.
Different.
Then you find all the reasons why that doesn't make sense either. So I don't know. Just, you've never done it before, and it's okay.
It's okay.
You know, and I'm the oldest of 6 as well. So you know, I feel
condolences to you.
Yeah, thank you. Even to this day, I still have my brothers and sisters calling me and texting me and going, make this better. How do I do this? Where do I get this from? Mum won't help me. So, and we're all adults now, so it's
that's sweet.
It's a forever thing, isn't it? Being the oldest.
And I'm the oldest too. Mm-hmm. Being the oldest. And final question: what is the most useful or useless baby item you had?
It's been a while. I really can't remember what I didn't need, to be honest. I'm sure there was lots of things, but mostly we kind of stuck to the essentials because being the oldest of 6 and mum, and we never really overindulged in any of those crazy baby products. I loved having a baby carrier where I could just strap Madden to me at any given point in time when he was being difficult, because he was super clingy as well. So if he was just attached or could touch me in any possible way, we were good to go. So
sounds like most children.
It just works. Like, it didn't matter what I needed to do. If he was being difficult, that was the best way to deal with that. Probably not like sage advice either. Like, wouldn't encourage people to do it all the time. But when I really needed to get things done, that worked. And then he despised going on long car trips, and the only thing that would placate him, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, and maybe don't familiarise yourself with it, it'll be stuck in your head for the rest of forever, was something called the duck song.
Go and sing a little bit, just a little bit.
Oh, I don't even remember. Like the actual words, maybe the tune, but something about a duck walking up to a lemonade stand and asking the lemonade stand guy if he had any grapes. over and over.
Do you have any grapes?
A duck walked up to a lemonade stand and he said to the man running the stand, "Hey, bump, 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 got any grapes?" The man said, "No, we just sell lemonade, but it's cold and it's fresh and it's all homemade."
Yes. I vaguely remember something like that,
Yes.
and the kids pissing themselves with laughter.
Yes, yeah. So he didn't make a sound when that song was like, just, he could be screaming bloody murder and then I'd put that song on and
It's like,
nothing. So that was, by a very small margin, easier to deal with than a screaming child. And I think if you find that one song or sound that just soothes them, that is
Put it on repeat.
Yeah,
excellent.
exactly.
Well, thank you, Natalie. It's been a pleasure to speak with you this afternoon.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Busy Mum podcast. Don't forget to let your friends know, and also subscribe to the iTunes channel, and also my socials if you want to see what I'm getting up to. A brand new episode is out every Monday morning, just like clockwork.